Welcome to Facts TV News, where everything is true. Man dead, another injured in shootout near Mapen Cemetery. The police are now confirming that a man was shot and killed and another injured during a lengthy shootout between gunmen and members of the security forces near the Mapen Cemetery in Kingston on Tuesday afternoon. The deceased has been identified as Howard Barton, otherwise called CJ. The injured man has been identified as an 18-year-old from Bentley Lane in Kingston. A firearm was also reported deceased during the gun battle. Reports are that about 4:30 p.m., a team of law enforcers was conducting an operation in the area when they came under attack from gunmen. Sources indicated that the criminals had gone to a neighboring community to carry out an attack and were making their way back when they ran into the law enforcers who were carrying out operation in the area. Reports are that the gun battle then ensued between the heavily armed men and police, along with personnel from the Special Weapons and Tactics Team and military-like unit within the police force. The incident caused a traffic pileup as the police sought to contain the situation and ensure that members of the public were kept safe in the area. Zozo extended by 60 more days. The House of Representatives yesterday voted to extend the existing 5 zones of special operations for a further 60 days. The zones, which are in Denham Town, West Kingston, Mount Salem and Norwood St. James, and Greenwich Town and August Town in St. Andrew, were created as a means of addressing serious crime factors as well as social decadence in the community. Minister of National Security Dr. Horace Chang welcomed the decision to extend the Zozos, noting the willingness of the House of Representatives to agree to extend these activities there, which he said was evident of the fact that they are working effectively in creating significant infrastructure, social and critical security improvement to the life of the residents of the communities. 2 held for murder of little boy and his mother. 2 people have been taken into custody for questioning in connection with the shooting death of a 4-year-old boy and his mother during Monday's pre-dawn attack at their home at retirement in Granville. The deceased have been identified as 42-year-old vendor Shellyan Shaw and their 4-year-old son Jamar Powell, both of Hilltop in retirement. There are 2 persons who have since been arrested and the police are maintaining a strong presence in the space as we speak, Assistant Commissioner of Police Clifford Chambers noted. Police reported that about 3:30 Monday morning, the 4-year-old and his mother were at home when 3 masked men brandishing handguns entered the yard and started shooting on the birdhouse, hitting the child and the mother. Both were taken to Cornwall Regional Hospital, where they died while undergoing treatment. The killing of the mother and her child followed last week night's gun attack on the nearby Granville community, which left 28-year-old Ashawn Holness and 28-year-old Jordan Roberts, a security officer, dead. Police reported that 11:45 Wednesday night, the 2 were sitting on their veranda when they came under heavy gunfire from 3 heavily armed men. They died on the spot. Security Minister and Deputy Prime Minister Dr. Horace Chang has blamed an ongoing gang feud for the recent bloodletting in the Granville area of St. James. There is a festering gang war in Granville, and although we have removed the leader of the gang, the second-line leader is now fighting over what you might call status. There is also an intra-gang and inter-gang conflict between 2 factions, one traditional and a smaller gang which is emerging with more prominence, said Chang, the Member of Parliament for St. James North Western. The police are targeting these gang members and they have evidence to charge them, so we should see some improvement over the next couple of weeks, he said. ACP Chambers also attributed gang warfare to the mayhem being carried out in the area. You have a split in 2017, and as a result of the split, you have each factor going against each other. You have about 10 murders since the start of the year, including 2 double murders, so it moves now into a tit for tat, ACP Chambers noted. He also pointed out various foot tracks that the gunmen used to access and exit the community pose a challenge to the law enforcers. The problem it poses to the police is that you can literally move in the retirement space from one end of the community to another without walking on the main road. Foot tracks, footpaths, and all of those pose a challenge for policing, he said. He added, these guys know the foot tracks because they born and grow there all their lives. Not only that, they know the houses and the relatives of each other because they were once operating as a group and they are using the cover of night for their attack. And even under the cover of darkness, they are still using masks. So we are relying now heavily on forensics. The thing is, they do the damage and go out and then come back to the community. That's the modus operandi in St. James now. They will hurt somebody and then they move out very quickly, Dr. Horace Chang stated. Prime Minister wants corporal punishment banned. Prime Minister Andrew Holness says the government will be focusing on legislation to deal with the high level of violence in the country, especially against women and children. He told the House of Representatives yesterday that the government has put in place several commissions which have been studying the cause and effect of the high level of violence in the country, and their reports will be used to inform the direction that will be taken to create legislation to control the level of violence. But in the meantime, Holness will be pushing for legislation to ban corporal punishment as a tool for raising children. The society has to be clear that we have to speak with one voice that all forms of violence must be repudiated, he said in a statement reacting to the news Monday of the death of the 4-year-old Nashawn Brown, who was allegedly beaten to death by his stepfather in Willowdene, St. Catherine. The boy's 24-year-old stepfather, Sean D. Bennett, was formally charged yesterday with unlawful wounding, assault occasioning actual bodily harm, cruelty to a child, and child abuse. Police sources have indicated that Bennett could also face murder charges. He is scheduled to appear in the St. Catherine Parish Court on July 27. According to Prime Minister Andrew Holness, it is important for us as a nation to have a conversation, an open and honest conversation about the effects of corporal punishment. He added, we as a society must ban corporal punishment. Our research shows that boys who are severely beaten by their mothers gravitate to a life of crime, and if you ask most Jamaicans what concerns them today, they will point to the increase in violence in the society. He said Jamaica and other Caribbean countries are among those with the highest corporal punishment rate in the world and are also among the countries with the highest homicide rates in the world. If we are to have a society free of violence, we must stop corporal punishment, the Prime Minister insisted. He said that the country continued to be horrified by the reports of violence and downright cruel acts being meted out to children, which should not be tolerated. In the same way, we have addressed and condemned the other forms of violence in his house. We must unequivocally, loudly and resolutely condemn violence against our children, he said. Responding to the statement, opposition Mark Golding, however, said that he was not sure whether banning corporal punishment by criminalizing the act would be accepted across the country. If that would be accepted across the nation, I don't know, but I think that more importantly, what is needed is public education and general dissemination of different sets of values, a different approach to violence, especially with vulnerable citizens included, he stated. He further stated that while laws have a role to play and are the easiest thing to draw for, in reality changing behavior takes more than just laws. That's why many of our laws are not enforced and are on the books, sterilized and bereft of any impact, the opposition leader stated. He said that while the Prime Minister's definition of the violence as a sickness or an illness was an apt description of the situation, for a 4-year-old boy to be killed allegedly because he is eating too slowly by somebody in his domestic setting is really unbelievable. It sickens many of us who regarded violence as being at the heart of the problem in our society, but want a more strategically sound approach to handling the issue that have caused the anger. It requires re-education of the nation and a reculturalization of the nation, Golding stated. Banning corporal punishment would be a symbolic step, and I think that is the trend worldwide. Spare the rod and spoil the child is still believed to be a sound precept in many homes. But I don't know whether banning it in the form of criminalizing it and parents face criminal sanctions if they slap their children, if that would be accepted across the nation, he said. Opposition Member of Parliament Michael Phillips noted that with the advent of the novel coronavirus pandemic, the pressures on many individuals, including children, could have an overall effect which could lead to mental illness. He said that, for example, students who have not attended school for a prolonged length of time might need mental checkups. He also urged that the government may take an urgent move to get medical health practitioners to work in the health centers across the country to help deal with these occurrences. I think that a deeper in-depth look needs to be taken to find out what is feeding domestic violence in this country, Phillips said. Children's advocate Diana Gordon-Harris, in condemning the attack on Brown on Monday, reiterated the need for Jamaicans exploring alternative methods of disciplining children. It brings back to the table the level of frustration some parents apparently feel in their personal spaces with all the pressures that comes with parenting, she added. Please remember to subscribe, like, share, and click the notification bell for daily updates.